Hi, Wilford.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. So glad to have you back here again for this interview, and now in English, which is going to open us a lot of viewers, not only from Panama, but from other markets.
Yes.
So I would like to interview you in English first because most of your buyers or purchasers and the people who is going to buy in the auction is going to be viewing this interview. So that's why the main purpose to do it in English this time.
Yeah. Well, last two interviews we had, it was in Spanish and it was very interesting. So I think it's a great idea to involve them. I believe
Sure.
more people from our side speaks English than from their side speak Spanish.
Yes, of course. That's the main purpose to do it in English, so we can reach different target and also have the broader audience from some other places. As you say, more people of your followers speak English, and also my followers. So I would like to start the introduction from you. I don't know if you want to do it or I can do it. Which way do you want to start?
Well, I think I have told the story here of my family, the Lamastus family estates. We are a company that owns 3 coffee farms. We have a coffee shop now. Well, we always had, for the last 10 years, we have coffee shops. We only changed a little bit the new format. So it's mainly a coffee farm company with a coffee roastery coffee shop that it's been growing coffee since 1918 by my great-grandfather. So it's a generational company. The story is pretty interesting, but I think we have told it in this platform before. So it's a pretty cool story. So if you want to hear it and you haven't heard about our family, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, I can tell you that in this page, you can go and search for the last year's interview, and it's pretty well there. So yeah, so we're basically a specialty coffee farmers and roasters and baristas.
Okay, no, and brewers. You are this year. You just won for third time or third consecutive time the Brewers Cup in Panama, and you're
Yes.
going to be in Australia this year representing Panama. Also, your trajectory in World Brewers Cup. It's been like the first time that you went, you were in top 10. The second time you were on top 8.
Yes.
And what can we expect from this year's participation?
Well, this year is going to be a hard year because last year was a shorter year. So it's important to mention that. So I think it's going to be a hard year, but experience helps. Of course, there's many other factors, but experience helps. And I feel that I have more experience by going to Worlds twice. I can tell that during my nationals routine, I was feeling a lot more comfortable. I wasn't stressed. The first time I won, that was my second time I competed, but I had the pressure on me that I got second the year before. I didn't want it to be second again. That pressure made it very hard. Then the second time, you are the current champion, and then you have so much stress of repeating or not repeating. But this time you feel a lot more comfortable. It doesn't mean that you feel that you're going to win, but you know that anything can happen and you don't over stress. One thing that I learned this time is not to over practice. One thing that too many competitors do is they over practice. You have to practice the right amount, the right level of practices. So that's the most important part. So I feel that in the Worlds, I'm going to play the same. Of course, the Worlds is a hard one, but I have I think this is a blessing. So my coach, for those who know my coach is Ben Putt. Ben Putt was my coach in 2018 locally in Panama. So in 2019 in the Worlds in Boston. In 2020 in the Nationals in Panama. In 2021 in the Worlds in Milan. In 2022 here in Panama for the Nationals. So he's been my coach for 5 consecutive competitions. In these sixth competition, he's not going to be able to be officially my coach because he's going to be competing actually in two competitions, in the two major ones, Barista and Brewers. For those who don't know really about these competitions, Barista and Brewers, it's kind of, let's say in the Olympics, you are talking about football, soccer, and basketball, the top two of the competitions. And Ben is competing in both. It's the second time somebody does it, but it's the first time somebody from a country that has so many finalists is getting to both competitions. So it's a pretty big deal. It's going to be very busy, but at the same time, because we're working together, we're using the same method, the same recipe, the same roast, the same coffee, the same water, and the same equipment, which makes it not necessarily easier, but it helps because we're working with the same we did in nationals for both of us. We did pretty well in our nationals, both of us. So I think that's a big advantage of using that. But yes, the practices are going to be more limited because of where we are going, which is very far, because of his other competition, and because I think we cannot over practice. It's important to practice the right amount. I'm not saying that we need to be lazy. Of course, we have to taste a lot of coffee. I've been tasting coffee. So one thing that people confuses, when you're competing for barista or brewers, people do a lot of routines. Doing routines is good because practice makes perfect. But there's a point where there's just too many. It's more important to taste coffee than to do routine. And what I've been doing in the last weeks since I won nationals is tasting coffees. I have a coffee that I'm using for nationals, for Worlds, but I'm still tasting more coffees just to see the options there and to understand them better.
Good to know that you are still copying and still looking for the coffee that you're going to take to Australia to represent Panama. You said that you are not over practicing, but in your words, what that means, because okay.
Okay, so one thing competitors tend to have, for example, in past competitions, I did, let's say, probably 200 routines. Okay, let's talk about nationals. Nationals of 2020, I counted more than 200 complete routines, 200.
Wow.
In 2021, I did 24 routines. Only 24 routines. That's important. One thing that you have to practice repetitively, it's compulsory. Because compulsory, you don't know what you're going to get, but you have to practice with the coffees. Now, compulsory is a game changer because compulsory sends you a different coffee that you have to adapt. So it doesn't matter how many times I practice. It doesn't matter how many times my coach tastes the coffee, as similar as it can be of the coffee that you're going to get. It's going to be a surprise. And when the surprise comes, then you have to adjust the grinder. And people do two different methods. Of course, we can have a backup method, but we have an idea right now. But over practicing means practicing way too much that you will end up getting exhausted and that probably won't change too much.
Good to know from your side that you are practicing for better compulsory test, which is always a great factor for points in the finals of the Brewers Cup. So it's good to know. And also you improved your last compulsory performance in the last year. So it's going to be better that you are focusing on that part of the routine, which is not the routine. It's like before the when you present, but it's a great part because most of the points or most of the champions wins by compulsory and not the performance.
Yes, exactly.
Good to know. What do you think is your secret weapon that you're going to take to Australia for the finals?
What do you mean? Like a weapon, like a coffee or something?
secret weapon. I don't know. Coffee, machine, method. I don't know.
Where actually we haven't even decided what method we're gonna use. It's gonna be a cone. It's gonna be a cone method, that's for sure. But we are thinking about it. We have the growth that I have been using for the last 3 competitions, but it's not a final decision. We decided that we are going to compete as a team, and that we're gonna try to do the same. Not the same presentation, because Ben has a different idea of what he wants to talk to the audience. Because at the end of the day, you gotta understand something. We don't present to the judges. We present to the audience. The judges don't evaluate the story much. They do. They evaluate if it's connected, if it makes sense, and how you are presenting, how clean you are, how presented you look, how you manage the station while you're presenting. They do that. But the story, it's more for the audience. So Ben's story and my story are different because we are in different type of sides of the business. But the core part of the competition is going to be the same.
I believe that Felipe from La Palma del Tucán and you are the only 2 producers that have.
Sebastian.
Huh? Not Sebastian, sorry. Sebastian and you are the only 2 competitors that have been producer and competitors, which is a big achievement for you, for both of you, because it's not easy, because when you're focusing on production, it's different when you're focusing on how to prepare or how to brew, which is the opposite from the production chain or from the chain of coffee. So it's going to be a nice story, I believe, and I think that they're going to connect all the points because you know better than nobody how to connect where it comes the coffee, where it's grown, and how did you process it, because you made everything to put the coffee on its place. So you know more than anyone how to do that, and how to connect all the points in the coffee to the cup.
Well, there's one thing that happens in these competitions. These competitions tend to be subjective, which means that the judges are subject to what they are scoring. You know, when you go to a blind competition and you have in the blind competition a bunch of coffees, always the geishas get higher points. Always. When you go to a competition of brewers and barista, the judges are listening to what you are serving. Then, no, this espresso had this and this brew had that. You know, so I think judges change the game. They are judges. They receive the training. They deserve the spot to be there. But subjectivity is also part of the game. We are playing the game, so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it makes predictions harder. It's harder to predict what the outcome is going to be. Compulsory is probably the only way we can have a less subjective evaluation. But during the open service, there's a lot of subjectivity, and it depends on what the judges think of what you're presenting. And sometimes preferences too.
Yes, most of the last competitions, Geisha has not been the winner on the brewers category. For example,
more or less, I'm gonna mention a few. Remember, compulsory wins championships. Matt Wilton, because compulsory score he got was higher than the second place, the Japanese guy. The Japanese guy used a blend of Bolivia and Colombian geisha. So geisha won open service, which is, the year before geisha won open service, and it's the geisha not from the one that the Chinese girl used, but the one the Costa Rican guy used. He used the geisha from Costa Rica, and that's the one that won. So it's tricky to say it that way. Sometimes they don't win, but open service does make geisha the winner more than the overall score.
It's good to know and that kind of comments, because that kind of comments are insights, because almost nobody out of the coffee community knows about that.
Yeah.
Most people think that Geisha is going to win because, and knowing that you have one of the most prized geishas in the world, maybe it's going to put you in a position of advantage from other competitors. So sometimes it's not that way, but of course it's going to.
The biggest problem we are facing right now in the world of competition of coffees is those coffees that are infused. I don't know if you heard about this before.
Sure, of course.
Coffees that are infused is the biggest problem of all. And then judges are still not trained enough to detect what is and what is not infused. And that's a problem. That's a problem that we have to face, because when a coffee is amazing, but it's not infused, it's going to be weaker, quote unquote, than a coffee that was infused. And then in Brewers Cup, it's the same as the cupping score, but you get double the points when it talks about acidity and body. And aroma also helps for those infused type coffees. So we have to always know about this, but it's a game we're ready to play, and we are not we're not going to use an infused coffee. So if an infused coffee beats me, so be it. I'm not going to go and play with an infused coffee, because that's not where we're trying to promote.
Great comment. I really like that you're using.
Let me be clear. It is not the judges' fault. Maybe they should be better trained in that sense, but it's not necessarily the judges' fault. And sometimes it's not even the producer's fault, although the producer need to be a little bit more aware of that. Sorry, I don't know what happened to this music.
Don't worry.
But the judges need to be more. Wait, 1 second.
Don't worry.
Can I pause this?
Let me check. Maybe I can. Are you back?
Sorry, my cat stepped on something and played something.
Don't worry.
Okay,
you were talking about the judges maybe are not prepared to cup infused coffee, because infused coffees are stronger in descriptors or in flavor and
sometimes the competitor know, because the producer. Okay, there's something in this community, and I'm going to say it because it's important for people to know, because people on the buying side are probably not going to say it because they are trying to be nice, but I can say it because I am a producer. Producers are some producers are not honest, and these producers sell the coffee that is infused, and then the buyers buy it because they found it interesting. They want to believe it's not infused. They want to believe in the product. Specialty coffee is so new that people is trying to push it towards new flavors, and it makes it hard for the buyers to say, oh wait, your coffee is infused, so I don't think I'm going to buy it for you. It makes it harder, So that is a problem we have, and the producers sometimes are not completely honest of what they are doing on their coffees, and then the coffee ends up getting in the finals, and everybody is suspecting something and ruins a little bit the game. But at the end of the day, the producer needs to be held accountable.
Yes, I know that you already have a podcast with Sisu, talking about infused coffees and different methods of processing coffee. If you're interested, for the audience, please check that podcast, which is very, very interesting, where you already address this topic. And great to know that you're not going to take infused coffee for the competition.
The infused coffees have a place, but it needs to be disclosed. It needs to be transparent. It's important, the transparency.
Yes, indeed. I believe that's a takeaway of the conversation that you have with Sisu. Infused coffee is okay, but you have to be transparent from the source, from when it comes, and which process did you selected for that kind of coffee. Maybe we can move on in the interview and start talking about Sisu, which you recently opened after the pandemics. You already had some cafeterias here in Panama, coffee shops, I remember Majareke, the first one that I knew from you, which was located on Casco Viejo. And now, after the pandemics, you opened Sisu Coffee Studio, which I believe is a fourth wave coffee shop where the producer, directly from the producer, you are receiving the coffee. Can you tell us what can visitor expect when visiting your coffee shop?
Well, one thing that I have with Sisu is that we thought about a lot of the aesthetics. One thing that we have is that we produce coffees that are special. They are superb. So they are called by expert luxury coffee. It's the first luxury coffee in the world. So we need to present this coffee in a luxury matters. You know, when you go to Sisu, nothing is expensive. If you go to Sisu, everything is cement. Nothing is like very high-end expensive, but things are done in a manner that you feel in a high-end experience. So I want to do a high-end experience without needing to be overly expensive. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to cover everything in marble or do gold cups or stuff like that, but the experience still feeling luxurious. We had Bajareke in the past. We ran Bajareke for 8 years. And Bajareke was a coffee shop that the coffee was amazing, but the space was tiny. The light didn't go through too good. So the experience was diminished to the level of the coffee. When COVID hits and we closed for COVID for mandatory reasons, we had time to think. And then when the time came, when we were able to reopen, I thought about what I'm going to do with Bajareke. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to close Bajareke. I think I'm not inspired anymore doing this. Bajareke he was my father, my aunt, and another business partner. A business partner that is not even in coffee. So we decided to close and then get together and agree on a price of a closing, whatever. It was a little bit tedious, but it went well at the end and is for the best. Right about this time, a family member of a family member owns this spot, and he tells me, why don't you come and take a look to my spot? No, don't feel the pressure. Just come and see it. After pandemic, I've changed my mindset about renting a place. I really want something that is a place that can stay here for forever in the building that my family built. So I went to look at the place, and then I told him, if I do something, and I don't think I'm gonna do anything else, I just close the coffee shop, I'm exhausted, it has to be something very small. So he showed me a small spot. And I thought about the small spot, and I asked him, who's in the corner? And he told me, nobody's in the corner, but I showed you the small spot because that's what you want to see. And I asked him, can we see the corner? He's like, yeah, let's go see it. And then that corner is special. For those who are not from Panama, that corner is the corner. No, it's not the most busy corner in Panama, but it's the corner that is visited by the most amount of different type of people in Panama, visitors and locals. So when I saw it, I'm like, I think we should do something. So my wife, who was not part of my family when we opened Bajareke, my wife is a graphic designer and she designs concept, branding and graphic concepts. So I told her, what do you think about opening a new coffee shop? By this time, when Bajareke opened, I was 20 years old, so I was very young. But when Sisu opened, I was already 31 years old. So I wanted to do it on my own. And I told my father, I think we need a coffee shop. The Lamastus Family Estates needs a coffee shop, but I want to do it on my own. And my father's like, 100%. I agree with you, and I will be willing to help you if you need me. So, of course, my father's always the big help because my father is the one that produces the coffee, helps me with different, with knowledge, coffee, and sometimes even money because we need the family for this stuff. So I decided to open Sisu, and my father helped me open Sisu. My wife designed the whole concept. My father helped me with the coffee, helped me with the knowledge about the coffee, and with my experience of Bajareque, I was able to open this coffee shop. And also with experience traveling to different coffee shops from my different business partners. So that's when I decided to open Sisu. Now, as ownership, as legal ownership for the Panamanian government, I am the owner, but as a brand, Lamastus Family Estates is the owner, which at the end of the day, in Lamastus Family Estates, we have one farm that is owned by a group, one farm that is owned by one of my family members, and another 2 farms that are owned by just 2 of my family members. So this is something that people don't need to know. You know, at the end of the day, it's under the Lamastus Family Estates umbrella, because Sisu is valuable for the aesthetics, for the coffee we offer, and for other things we are trying to do good. But Sisu's main value is that it's under the Lamastus Family Estates umbrella. So it is my coffee shop. It is legally my coffee shop, but at the end of the day, it's also part of the Lamastus Family Estates. That's how we do these things, because it's the only thing to get stronger. One thing that I had when I was in Bajareque is that I purchased a large company's pastries. But when I was opening in Sisu, I decided, you know what? I cannot have just regular pastries. And I started a really good relationship with Chef Ariel Sevede, because Ariel is a guy that is in really high-end food and also wine. He's a wine connoisseur. I forgot the name of how they call them.
Sommelier.
So
yep.
He wanted to learn about coffee the same way he knows about this other product. So we have a really good relationship. He serves my coffee in his dinners. He uses a cocktail from our cascara, and he's very into high quality. So when we were actually, one thing that he told me once that was very funny, but it was a really, really good message, was if you do a remodelation in Bajareque, I would love to sell you my pastry. And that was a message, like Bajareque as a aesthetics is not as high for our standards, but your coffee is. So when I was going to open Sisu, I remember I went to the spot. That time pandemic was a little bit tough to go around. So I went to the place, saw it, and walked straight to his restaurant where he was working on deliveries because he could not receive people back then in his restaurant. So I knocked the door, he opened and I said, hey, I have to tell you something that might be a possibility. He has always had the passion of opening a bakery. And since he met me, he told me, I want you to do a really good coffee program for that bakery that I'm going to open. So in this case, I told you, you know what? I'm going to open a new coffee shop. I think this coffee shop is going to be on your standards. Let's use your pastry. And salty food too, because people think in Sisu we only have pastry, but you can have a brunch, a full-on brunch. So
yeah.
Ariel helped big time here with creating the food program, and he keeps on developing. And I think that our coffee needs to have somebody at Ariel's level. And it doesn't matter how many people we can hire. It's super hard, or it's probably impossible to have that level of food in a place like Sisu. So we have a really, really good level of coffee, and we need to have that with a really, really good level of culinary. So I'm happy that I am working with him, super happy. And I think that we have to offer the best quality possible. And I try to do 2 things: quality in every product that I serve or offer, and also try to work local. And I want to add one more thing about Sisu, about that. Now I am working on getting a better matcha. That's one of the projects, that's one of the products that I cannot work local. That's the reality. Matcha, that those green teas don't grow here. So we have to work with a foreign producer. And I now have guests from some Japanese leaf teas for matcha, trying to up the game. I ask somebody that has a matcha and a coffee shop, matcha and coffee shop bar, and he buys like Finca de Évora, Hacienda La Esmeralda, Lamastus Family Estates, and this La Palma del Tucán, and this level of coffee. So I told him, I met him in a Brewers Cup in Boston. He competed in the same as I did. I asked him, if you have that level of coffee, is your matcha the same level? He's like, yeah, we try to. So I'm like, can I have some samples? And he sent me some samples, and I've been testing, early testings. I'm not an expert, so I need help. So if somebody wants to help, welcome to start getting a better matcha program. But I'm trying to do that with every product. Can be produced here, I will 100% do it here. One person asked me, why don't you buy this water or this sparkling water? I'm like, because I'm buying Bambito. But why Bambito? Why Bambito? Because Bambito is local. The name Bambito is the name of a town that is next to the town that I grow the coffee. So why not Bambito? Why should I use Perrier or one of the foreign ones? And then that person, the salesperson, was like, I get you. I respect it. And it has happened with other products too.
And also, Bambito is a great water for brewing coffee.
Yeah,
that's what I use here in the house. So.
That too, but that was not the main reason. The main reason I want high quality, local. That's
yes. When you were talking about the Sisu, I just copy a few points in here. One was luxury. You referred to Sisu as a luxury experience. I believe so because me and my wife, went to Sisu a couple of times and experienced the quality of the details. You take a lot of care of the details. It's a very minimalistic place where you can get nice pairings of coffee, and the menu are very, very close to have and very nice to have together. So you took a lot of care in the details. And when talking about luxury, I remember that your coffee, Elida Geisha, was spot on the series Billions. So it was a nice publicity for you to appear on a show like Billions on TV. So tell us about that moment, yes.
But let me say something before we finish the chapter completely. One thing that I have realized in my life is that I am not the best. Like, I am a person that can do good things in coffee because I have learned it big time. But I need to surround myself with the best of the best. I have the fortune that I married an amazing designer, but not just graphic designer, but the whole idea of concepts. So she did a really, really, really great job on the spot where we got ideas, of course, from many trips we had when we went to Japan and to other spots. And you know what? I think I went to Dubai a little bit too late because I went to Dubai when Sisu was already like probably 95%. And the other one is that I got together with a genius in food because Ariel is not only a great recipe executor, but the way he creates the recipe, the way he thinks the stuff, the way he's very quiet, but he grabs whatever we are trying to do and he's like, give me a day. And then he executes pretty well. And he understands pretty fast the concept. So he says, I can offer you this. And then we say, oh, maybe. And then immediately he understands what I'm thinking and says, okay, I'll build stuff for you. And another last thing is, if you go to Sisu and you see the kitchen, we cannot have a kitchen. So one thing that people don't understand, what Ariel did is that he did everything to be possible to be made in that small oven because we don't have a kitchen. Hopefully in the near future, when we can have a new Sisu, we will think about a kitchen so we can be a little bit more dynamic. But right now we can work with what we have, and he did a pretty great job of building that menu.
Yes, there are many regulations in Casco Viejo right now regarding the gas mainly. Right. So it's hard for all new businesses to connect to the gas.
I love the Unido burger. And unfortunately, in Casco, I cannot have the Unido burger, and I spend a lot of time in Casco. So when I go to Cafe Unido in Casco, I cannot eat the Unido burger. only when I'm in the ones in the Panama City. So billions.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Billions.
say billions. Okay, so I have a friend. Her name is Michelle. Michelle, it's a Sunday morning, like 7:30 a.m. And I wake up and I have a message from Michelle. She sends me a message and says, "This is your coffee in billions." So she takes a picture of the screen, and it looked like one of these websites that you get the TV series. The TV series Billions in that moment was like recently launched. The episode was launched at midnight that day, and as opposed to as opposed to whatever is coming up here in Netflix, for example, it's later, so they got it earlier because probably they're very big fans of the show. And she took the picture. She sends me the picture. I see the picture, and the picture was clear of the reading of what it says. Even if I did zoom, it wasn't clear. And I saw a Chemex. And in my mind, I'm like, maybe you saw me once working with a Chemex, and she thinks he has something to do with my coffee. I don't know. Very weird. Attention to it. I texted her, "Is this the new season?" And she hasn't replied to me. So I still go on Instagram. Then I moved to the Lamastus Family Estates Instagram. It's early in the morning. It's a Sunday. I was supposed to meet with friends in Sisu. And then I see the Lamastus Family Estates. Some person in the United States writes to the Lamastus Family Estates DM and says, "Hello guys, I just saw your coffee being showed in the show Billions. It's episode 4 of season 6, I think." He said, "This is a pretty big show down here." I'm like, "No shit, I've seen this show many times." I was actually up to date in the season before. And I'm like, "What?" So I immediately went to Netflix, chose not in Netflix. So I'm like, what do I do? So I go into, I started browsing, then Showtime, but I have to get the VPN. I pay for the VPN, paid for Showtime. I spent like $35 only on trying to see. And I immediately jumped to the 4th episode, go, back and forth, until I saw the image that the girl sent me. And then boom, that's the image. That's the moment. I played it, and it was an amazing moment. Goosebumps. I think it was probably bigger than the championships we have won. And I tell you why. Because what we are trying to do, we have the best coffees in the world. When I say we, I mean the Panamanian producers. We have the best coffees in the world right now. Right now, the best coffee in the world is Ratibor Hartmann's coffee, and that's no discussion. Second place to his coffee is the second highest score in Panama. It's not something in the other country. And if producers from other countries are seeing this, it's not personal, it's the truth, it's what is happening right now. Maybe one country can overpass us in the future, but right now it's Panama. So everybody knows that the best wines in the world are produced in France. Even people that don't drink wine, even people that cannot afford it, or even people that can afford it but doesn't care about buying them. I don't drink wine, and I know about this. I think it's very important to have general knowledge of Panamanian coffee, and that hasn't happened yet. That doesn't happen yet. Not many people know about it outside of the really big coffee fans. So when a show like this shows up it means that they are starting to pay attention. A mainstream show that talks about luxurious product. The rest of the episode, that episode was a pretty unique episode. In every single expensive thing, they tag it and they put the price on it. So they have like Philippe Patek watches, they have like Cartier handbags, expensive shoes, a lot of luxury products being tagged, and our coffee was tagged. And I don't mean it in a sense of money, but I mean it in a sense of value, the value of the coffee, because luxury doesn't necessarily mean expensive. Luxury means exclusivity, rarity, and high quality. So when they put this, it was a huge deal for me. We want the public to know about this product. Now, I gotta mention something pretty cool. There's a show that has mentioned Panama Geisha, La Esmeralda, 3 times. It's a show in Korea. In that show, I did research about it after I got obsessed with the Billions thing. Many people thought that we did a product placement. product placement of that level can cost from $150,000 up to $500,000 because it stopped and showed the name with a price tag and did a post on it. So I don't think we have the money for that. And if we did, I guarantee you we will not spend it that way because there's a lot of other necessities to take care of before. But the show in Korea has shown us better than 3 times. That show has more viewers than Billions.
Wow.
But Billions is an American show from Showtime, which makes it more mainstream for the West. And not only for the West, for everybody in the world, because at the end of the day, the United States is an influence around the world, around the globe. Google searches. That's another thing that I loved about seeing this Billions thing. Worldwide Google searches, boom, skyrocketed when you place Elida or Geisha. United States, boom, skyrocketed. Panama didn't skyrocket. Panama stayed in a line. And people say, oh, that's because Panamanians don't care about it. No. Panamanians did care about it. It's the most liked post I have in Twitter, Instagram for the Lamastus Family Estates. Is the most liked of all my life that I have in my social media. People did saw it, did congratulated me, but people knew what Elida was already in Panama. So there was no need to go and search Elida Geisha. People knew about it, and that made me really, really happy because I am a firm believer that we need to offer the product and offer the knowledge to everybody here in Panama before we do to the rest of the world. And that was not the mentality of my colleagues that are older generations than I am. They like to jump Panama and sell to the rest of the world because Panama is a small market. It's not a lie. I know that if I had Sisu in Miami, I would probably be selling a lot more money, making a lot more money, but having Sisu in the corner that I have it, I think is magical and it's priceless at the end of the day. So I think that it's super important to take care of our own people first, because that's when people around the globe is gonna believe our story better. So all this combination of things made me so much happy. And for me, Billions is the biggest thing. I still sometimes when I'm alone, go and look for the video on my cell phone and watch it.
Yes.
Again, still give me goosebumps.
No, it's great publicity. When I saw it, I didn't believe it. So I believe great news for you and your family and your coffee first, and then the great publicity that you get from a show like Billions.
A lot of people
Yes?
ask, oh, are you selling more? Are you selling more? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. It's not about selling more. It's about knowledge. Right now, it's about
publicity.
We have to think on the long run. I know there are producers watching, and also people from the Panamanian specialty coffee industry, from the barista and roaster side. We need to think on the long run. We have a product that is super special, and of course, we can see what happened to Pocho last year. It's amazing prices he got that I got so wrong here in this same life by my predictions because I was scared of the COVID thing. But what we are seeing in our products is so big that we have to think in the long run because it's gonna get better if everybody gets in the same messaging, in the same ideas, in the same thing. Lamastus Family Estates alone is not gonna make it. We need to strengthen the name Panama Geisha because that's the name that is gonna get everybody to know about our product. It's not gonna be one family. It's not gonna be one company. It doesn't matter how much money people have to put it to media or whatever. It doesn't matter how many Best of Panamas one family wins. It is about the entire group together. Not only producers, also coffee shops. We have coffee shops like Mentiritas Blancas, Brew, Leto, Unido. All these coffee shops, when somebody comes to Panama, they need to have a geisha. They need to have the right geisha so that people can try. And I think baristas and owners of coffee shops here, please try to always have a geisha because that's what is gonna make us different than the rest of the world.
Yes, indeed. On every meeting that I have on my job, my work, I always go with a bag of geisha, and if I can brew it, I brew it by myself and share with people experience because we have people from different countries, so we can get the opportunity to share something that is unique from Panama, which is our best product from Panama, and which is our flagship. So that's why I always, when somebody comes or somebody very special comes or somebody I'm going to visit some other country, I go with a bag of Geisha and try to share it with everyone, because in Panama, coffee have to be seen as culture. So we try to we have to share this culture with some other different persons and for tourists, and that's what Sisu is doing right now in Casco Viejo. Every time I go, it's packed with tourists. So it's good to have great news like that, and for your coffee also.
Thank you. We're trying to do our best.
Okay, let's move to the other topic that we have in this interview, which is your private auction, which is going to be very soon, very soon. I believe it's going to be, yes.
3.5 hours, in 23 and 12 minutes. 23 hours and 12 minutes.
Okay, the last year was your first private auction.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. What was your best learnings from your first time that you're doing private auction?
Okay, so private auction is a pretty big deal. Private auction is very hard to make, very hard to make. We wanted to do it since 2018, and we ended up doing it in 2021. It's expensive, it's hard, it's a lot of logistics, it's a lot of different things that you need to do pay attention. There are a few coffee companies around the world that are doing private auctions already. Guatemala, in Colombia, in Honduras, in some African countries. In Yemen, there are two. In Brazil. And these auctions are recurrent, are successful. For our fortune and our unfortune, Panama has a higher standard. So the results of an auction need to be a little bit higher than it is in other countries. For 17 years, Hacienda La Esmeralda has been performing their auctions successfully, pretty successfully. And two other Panamanian farms, 90 Plus and Deborah, tried to do it as well and did it only for 1 year. That was our number one fear. Our number one fear was, if we are not successful enough, if we lose money, we're going to be forced to do it only 1 year. And that was super scary, because it's better not to do it than to do it only 1 year. Because everybody in the industry understand that your auction didn't continue. And there are many factors why. So that was our biggest fear last year. So first, we wanted to do it in 2018 because 2018 was our 100th year anniversary, and we could use that as an excuse. We could say, okay, this is 2018, 100-year anniversary, private auction, and then if we didn't do it again, it would look like, oh, that was a 100-year anniversary celebration. We didn't. 2019, we didn't. In 2019, late, we were planning for 2020. COVID comes. It wasn't the right messaging. It wasn't the right timing. In 2021, things were more stable. So we ended up doing it in 2021. We did the auction, and the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, we need to create an idea. Because if you see the samples, they are always creative and always elegant. For example, you see the Esmeralda samples, they are always very elegant. And they
luxurious. Yes.
Every year. But I say, okay, we are new here. Esmeralda has already a strong established Geisha name, and they are known as the first Geisha producers. So they are already successful in their auction. Everybody's waiting for their auction, and they already have pretty cool and pretty elegant sampling. So we need to do something different. We need to do something. So we need to divide it into 2 parts. So this is my idea. We need to do something that for the first part of the auction will bring the attention of people, will create hype, will create media hype, will have people talking about it. And then we care about the results of the auction. But we have to make a win in this first part. So they thought about colorful. We need something colorful. I thought about the idea that I don't know if people saw it. If you haven't seen it, going through our Instagram, Lamastus Family Estates, and scroll down to about a year. Super colorful, with an artist that is a friend of mine, Daniela Golfer. We worked in this idea of creating the flavor wheel color palette of the samples we were offering, creating it in a piece of art that is very unique to her, and launch it. Why? Because those colors were gonna get attractive, or were gonna be easy to see in a post. Instagram and Wish for a few weeks was infested by those pictures. So that was brought the idea. I created the idea. The whole idea came from me. My friend Daniela painted it, and Simi designed the whole box. She designed the idea of having the little packages with the color, the main color, not the whole painting, because every little square has a painting. But she wanted that inside bag is gonna be just one color, the main one of that part of the painting, and so on. So it was a team effort on the creativity part, and it was pretty successful. And then the auction was successful as well. For us, it was a big deal. One thing that I have in our auction is that when we are copying for the Best of Panama has a mandatory of 150 pounds that you have to submit in order to be able to compete. So sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, the best lot we cop is not the size of the mandatory of the Best of Panama. So when we decided to do our private auction, instead of standardizing the weight of the coffee, which makes it a little bit easier for the clients when they are bidding, I said, you know what, let's roll with whatever we have. If the lot is what we like, if the lot is one of our preferred, let's go with whatever we have in pounds. If it's 10 pounds, 10 pounds. If it's 190 pounds, it's 190 pounds, but let's go with what we have. Because I believe strongly in single origin. I think single origin is what shows you the coffee on its reality. So I don't think that a blend is a better coffee than a single origin if we are talking about higher level. If we are talking about a coffee that has deficiencies, then you blend it and you can make it better. But if you're talking about the top level, that's why I also have a little bit of a problem with Brewers Cup. Blend will never be better than single origin on those levels. So in our farms, when I say our, I mean all of my colleagues in Panama, in our farms we have the best coffees. So the single origin lot will be better than that. So in our auction, we wanted to offer the lot as it is, where it comes, where it was picked, etc. Not blending to meet a standard size. And then in the auction happened, and the auction was pretty successful. We had a really great coffees, sold pretty high, small lots, but one of those lots was the best one, probably one of the best coffees I've ever tasted. But it was very, very, very small. And that coffee was so small that we couldn't even offer samples. We only offered samples to 4 clients. And I was scary about it, because when people doesn't have samples, they're probably not gonna be willing to bid on those coffees. But it ended up being sold pretty high. And now, one important thing for everybody to know is that if we sell a coffee for $4,000, it doesn't mean that we are like, oh yeah, that's a lot of money, let's spend it all. No, it's more about what it means to the world, what it means to the industry. Having an expensive coffee was attractive. It's a reality. We can say, oh, this coffee scored a 99 points in the Best of Panama, and not too many people outside of the industry is gonna click on those news. But if you say, oh, the coffee was sold at $5,000 a pound, everybody's gonna go and click on that story. So it's important. Now, expensive coffee just to be expensive is not good. There are producers out there that do calls with buyers and say, let's sell an expensive coffee. Okay, let's sell an expensive coffee. And probably the deal goes both ways for some other reason. Probably there are other things. They don't even disclose the amount of the coffee it is. But they just say, oh, we sold an expensive coffee. Oh, wow, cool. You sold an expensive coffee to who? Oh, to that guy. Oh, and the guy says, oh, I buy an expensive coffee. But that doesn't work, you know. This coffee needs to be cupped, need to be bid. The price I'm going to offer to you, it's never going to be more than $100 a pound. Those ones were $75 a pound to starting price. That's what I am offering to the market. The market decided to go that high. The market clicked on it all the way until it got to $4,100. Not us. So that's important.
Yes.
Market decides, not me. And the Best of Panama is even bigger and better because Best of Panama, it comes after a competition where a huge panel of judges from all over the world cup the coffee and together decided that's the number one, and then that one is auctioned. So that is a real record price. Not those that people say, oh, I sold this to this guy at this price. That's not the real quality oriented market. So what it means to the industry, it's the prices of the coffee. What it means to our industry, to our country gets a lot of bad news lately, and I'm happy to work in one of the few industries that is getting good news about our country. So this year's auction, Simi said to me, I have an idea. And she told me about the idea. I'm like, wow, I like it. Can you execute it? She's like, I can. And then people say, oh, work with these Chinese or these Taiwanese companies that make the boxes. But Simi is like me. She believes in the local talent. She says, no, I want to work with locals. So I want to work with locals. So she decided to work with a company called Print Shop for the books inside and Cartoplastic for the box. Cartoplastic is the same one that did the year before. Two Panamanian companies. The executive of those companies get super excited when we tell them what we're doing, because they also say that they also see the coffee industry growing and they feel, oh yeah, I like to be part of this. So working in this. So she created a book. Go to the Lamastus family Instagram.
It's 4 books, I believe.
Books. Go to the Lamastus family Instagram and you're gonna see pictures and videos all over it. So she grabbed the 4 books, and in each book there's 6 samples, and each book tells a story. The story of regions. What is the story of regions? We have the fortune to have coffee farms in 2 different regions inside the small region of Chiriquí. We have one in the south side of the region, which is closer to the Pacific Ocean. That has an extremely different microclimate than the other 2. This is a dry area when it's in the harvest season, but an extremely precipitated area when it's in the rainy season. And this farm is El Burro. It's the farm that is located most to the south of the whole region, closer to the Pacific. Then we have Luito. Luito is the second north to the most farm in Panama, and the first one in town of Boquete. And then it is humid year-round. The harvest is completely unstable. The beans are super big because of the amount of water, while the ones in the Burro are super small. So it is a completely different microclimate than El Burro. So the story of regions offers those 2 farms, telling you opposite regions, Luito and El Burro, showing you how 2 opposed regions can taste in a small country like Panama, that sometimes people see Panama as only one region. Panama is more than one region. That's why the Best of Panama slogan was, we are regions this year. The second book is the story of terroir. What we are trying to see with the story of terroir is we are trying to offer Geisha washed, because the Geisha washed shows you the coffee for the seed taste from the variety and whatever it grew. High altitude, the weather, the shade, etc. Combination with the variety, that's the taste. The fruit doesn't come up in the taste. So that's the story of terroir, where we are trying to tell the story of the terroir where this coffee was picked. Then the other one is the story of fruit. The story of fruit is where you dry the coffee with the fruit, the natural process. Also, we used some anaerobics from the original tanks, which are the blue water tanks that most of the coffee farmers around the region is using, not only Panama, also Central America and South America. So that's the story of fruit. And then in this year, we introduced a new gadget to the farm called the reactor fermenters. That's how my father called them. That my father helped develop with an engineer company in Colombia called J.M. Estrada. He helped develop the tanks, and he acquired 6 of them. So we did fixed a lot of the variables that are hard to control on the blue tanks that are not designed for that. like turning the coffee around, like separating the juice or including it if we want to, like measuring the pressure, injecting CO2 and different other things. Completely hermetic seal. So these tanks, the coffees that were processed in these reactor fermenters, we called it the story of innovation. So those are the 4 books that are inside a box, and each book has a sample. Now the samples are bags of 100 grams in each page, right? So that's the part that I was worrying me. Are we gonna be able to flip the pages? Is this gonna be possible? See, we did testings and it worked. When we got to the farm, we decided to do it vacuum sealed. And then when we did vacuum sealed, it wasn't opening. And we were like, what's happening? What's happening? And then we were, oh my God, it's vacuum sealed. And then we had to repack them again. And then we were able to flip the pages. But that was a pretty cool idea. That is a pretty cool idea. Too many people tell me, it's better than last year. It's better than last year. I like that people tell me that. It is different purposes. Last year we needed colors. You know, if you put the picture of the new box, it's a gray box. Beautiful, but gray. But last year we needed color. It was our first time. This year we feel a little bit more comfortable to go elegant. Elegant and creative. And people loved it. People text us and calls us, how can we get this for Christmas, for a client? Because people think it's roasted coffee. And we have to explain, no, it's samples for the auction. And now there's a 5th story that is not a book. It's the story of elevation. The story of elevation is the coffee that comes from our highest lot. This is the 3rd year we have picked coffee from this lot. Last year that was the one that got very high price. The 1st year we drank it ourselves here in the farm, in the family, because there was no other use for it.
Oh, we're missing Wilford. Okay, we're back. I believe that lot was Aguacatillo.
Yeah, Aguacatillo is the name.
Okay.
That my grandfather gave it. My father gave it. But that lot we sold for $4,000. The 1st year we drank it ourselves because there was no market for it. It was too small. The lot, I think that year was not even a pound after peeling and roasting. So we drank it ourselves. The 2nd year, we offered it to the auction. It was a pretty good deal. This year we were hoping to have more. Unfortunately, we only had 7 pounds, but it makes sense because this year was a very, very low yield for every coffee farmer in the region. It was very, very low, the quantity of coffee we got. So it makes sense. Maybe the next year we're going to have a little bit more. So it was about the same as last year. But this year we decided to do it washed. Last year we did it anaerobically in a bag. But this year we decided to do it washed. At the end of the day, we ended up doing it honey, but a very clean honey. But we wanted to do it that way because we wanted it to taste. Now, I believe that might hurt because some people are leaning more towards the natural flavors than the washed flavors. But I still think it's important to do it that way because it shows you the taste of the terroir and the elevation of that coffee. So if you taste the coffee, it tastes extremely floral, and it has those geisha-like flavors exponentiated. Maybe we kept like 100 grams of it or a little bit more because normally so one thing that is important is when we are selecting a coffee, we have to say this is the amount of coffee we have. We have to be a little bit conservative because the coffee needs to be selected. And when it's selected, some of the beans are going to be removed. So maybe we get 100 grams of that, and maybe we do something so can people taste. We'll let you know. But for the meantime, it's probably a very small quantity of coffee. Actually, the last time I cupped it, I had to cup it in a smaller dose than the usual cup because it's so little. And because it's so little, I have only cupped it 2 times, not more than that. Normally, we cup coffee up to 8 times. But it's a very interesting coffee. I hope those 3 or 4 clients that got a sample are enjoying it because nobody else is gonna get a sample, unfortunately. So yeah, that is the 5th story, and I'm pretty excited about it.
I totally agree with you that the washed coffees keep like the traditional elements of the geisha when it was discovered in 2004.
Yes.
Already discovered, and I really like more that kind of profiles than the heavy processed coffees or naturas. I really like more right now, more into the wash coffees, and so that's why I totally agree with you that wash is the way to go with a coffee when you want to prove or to show the terroir. That's the main thing on wash coffees.
Yes.
Okay. What can bidders expect on this year's private action? Because I already saw the packaging. You overperformed on the last years, and it was a really difficult task to do. And since you and Simi started on the marketing side of the company, like the relevo generacional, I cannot, like when you...
I don't know how to say it either. The generational...
Yeah, when you're taking...
There's not relevo yet, because my father, it's still in charge, and he's still innovating.
On the production. Yes, but...
My father, it's a person that comes from the agricultural background, and he started focusing on creating the best possible coffees. And I gotta say something about my father that it's not because it's my father, it's because it's the truth. When we had the top producers in the early 2000s doing these amazing coffees, like we had back then, it was Esmeralda, the Coiners, so it's Esmeralda, Cotowa, Carmen State, the Johnsons, Elida. All the farmers had more resources and a higher budget to do anything than my father had by miles. And he was able to perform at the same level and sometimes even beat them. So we actually have missed a lot of first places when we had no geisha, because geisha was competing with, so there was like 4 geishas. And then the 5th place, we got the 5th place. Wow, that was a Catuay Natural. Several. In another podcast, I will detail them. So he did a pretty good job, and he has evolved with the time. My father is the type of people that he is 62 years old, but he grabs a phone and then he opens his own Instagram, his own LinkedIn, his own TikTok, and he watches it and he reads it and he starts reading new stuff. And he's extremely fast to be adapted to new technology and new stuff. So it's the same in coffee. He's extremely fast to adapt to new market trends. So when I came to the idea of rebranding the whole farm concept, he's like, okay, what do you have in mind? And I show it to him. And then at the beginning, he's always like, he's a quiet person, so in some stuff. So he receives it, doesn't say much, but then he implements it. So when rebranding starts, he says, we have to do remodelation. So the remodelation he designed came along with the rebranding. So stuff like that is always big. And that's a really great part of the evolution. That is a team evolution. So I tell my father one time, let's get a tank like these guys do, because I want to try something for Brewers Cup. And my father, I was in Taiwan. It was morning time in Taiwan, night time in Panama. When it was night time in Taiwan, morning time in Panama, I was sleeping. My father sends me a picture. When I wake up, I see a picture. He got 2 tanks. And he says, okay, we're going to start testing. And he did. When I came back to Panama, there were already 5 tanks, because he couldn't wait and he bought more tanks. And he was already testing the coffees. Now he co-created a new system of fermentations. So all these things evolve. He evolves in the time. Then, for example, we had the first talks about Panama Geisha with this consultor about branding and luxury and stuff. He at the beginning was very like, what is this? And then immediately he's like, okay, we need to start learning about this. So he started reading about luxury. And then things like that adapt. So we have the creativity from Simi, and we have the leadership from my father, and it's a pretty big clique there. And they have very similar personalities, and they are very good in what they do. So I think that clicks. And I think I'm like the one that clicks, or the one that says the ideas, and they help me execute. So I think as a team, we're really good. It's a family business, super family-oriented business. We have my mother that she's really good in like detail-oriented coordination. What does that mean? Like everything, okay, Simi says, okay, we are going to do this, and that. And then my father and we are a little bit more disorganized. So my mom's like, no. This is what Simi is trying to do. We need to follow the steps one by one. Everybody get together. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. She's extremely good at delegating. She's extremely good at logistics. And she's extremely good at this. And now also, she doesn't work with the family. She's working in a multinational company, but she has expertise in softwares about inventory, the one called Salesforce that is like for the
CRM.
CRM. So my sister implemented the CRM for the company. She then we hired an engineer. She worked along with the engineer to reorganize everything in our bodega. And then we got a software called Cropster Origin, where my sister connected to the CRM, and now it's a completely different operation. Everything is done in the family, which is pretty cool. And then we are adding. We're not really in the relevo, but we are adding to the team.
What I was trying to say is when you enter in the business, more in the marketing and sales, there was a huge lift in the company. That's one of my main point. I know that your father still keeps the production. Yes.
I'm trying to do the same with SCAP, but in SCAP I have a lot of more members, a lot of more people, and many of the ideas that are coming to the Lamastus family estates, the idea was to do it with Panama Geisha, the shop that looked luxurious, trying to be in mainstream media and stuff like this. But it is an organization, it is an association, you have to go step by step, you have to ask for a budget. Well, in the private side, we say, you know what, we need to do this, it makes sense, okay, let's try to invest in this. So yeah, I'm trying to do the same with SCAP, but it's a little bit harder.
Step by step. I believe that you can turn that association and on the right track, because you already did, or you're already doing it in your company. So as you said, as soon as more producers are in the same frequency, it's going to be easier to sell Panama as a region and to everybody, so everybody gets benefits from it. It's like last year, Pocho, when he broke the record, it was a victory for all the producers in Panama, not only for Pocho, from the Google. So you have to push for everybody, not only for in SCAP, not only for the family, but the effort really, it's great, but the price is bigger.
No, and one thing that is very big that we have to understand in the Best of Panama, and we can talk a little bit about the Best of Panama if you want. The Best of Panama, what happened in the Best of Panama, the Esmeralda broke all the records for years. And they were the only ones breaking the records. Until 2017, they were the only family that was breaking a record. But all the rest of the coffees were getting higher and higher and higher value. Not breaking records, but getting higher and higher value, which was pulling everybody up. Then the first family that breaks records, that is not La Esmeralda, is us. We had a track record. We had a long history in coffee. My father is one of the few three founders of Specialty Coffee Association of Panama. The first three people was my father, Mr. Price Pearson, and Ricardo Coiner. And my father, of course, we had a track record, so it made sense that it was going to probably be us or Guatawa who breaks the next record. But now, it's so normal. You have Finca Sofia breaking the record the next year, Pocho breaking the record the other year. And then the second highest, the second most expensive coffee was achieving the prices that only 3 years ago we saw it as the biggest milestone ever. When we got to the $1,000 a pound, it was the biggest milestone ever, and everybody celebrated it. Like it was such a long run. Just 2 years later, it was 2.5 more the quantity the coffee was sold. So it is a pretty big deal. And now, the same way Esmeralda helped us, the same way we help Pocho, and everybody helps everybody else lift up. I remember when you asked me about predictions, and I missed it because of the COVID. I do have big predictions for the Hartmanns this year. I think the Hartmanns are going to break the record by a lot. And
they already broke the record of score because it's 96.5,
yes,
which is 1 point. And when we talk about 1 point on that, on the top level, it's very close to 100. It's a huge deal. It's not like a 1 point. It's like a huge deal.
Now, I tell you something about the natural from Hartmann. It was completely unanimous. It was completely unanimous since round one. It was the first place. It was never fought. Like no other coffee was gonna get near that one in any moment.
Wow.
We didn't know who it was. I guess in a moment that it was Santa Maria's. Santa Maria still got pretty high, but there was no fight in that category. But in the wash category, there was fight, and in the last round, number one, number two, and number three was the favorites of different producers. Different judges. So from different judges, some judges prefer one, some judges prefer the other one, and some judges prefer the other one. But he ended up getting a higher score, which was a pretty amazing coffee as well. And it also broke record. It also got to 96 points, I believe. Yeah, 96 points.
Yes, 96 points.
5. But those coffees were extremely clean, beautiful tasting coffees. The natural, it's kind of mind-blowing. Since the first round, I remember we copped it in the first round. I remember that coffee extremely well. I remember the second best coffee in the table where it was. We didn't know this in the moment. We knew it 2 weeks afterwards. It was El Burro. And I remember somebody, I can say it, Pocho, gave it a higher score to El Burro than to Hartmann's. Remember, we didn't know about this in the moment we were discussing. And I told him, are you crazy? You like that one better? I remember El Burro was number 4 and the other one was number 6 because it was such a memorable coffee that I'm not going to forget it. I mean, are you crazy? That number 4 better than that number 6? No, man, you're crazy. That number 6 was so big. And then in that moment, I'm like, who might it be? Then the semifinal came, then the final came. Eventually, boom, they called it. And at that moment, we don't know if the favorite of the nationals is the favorite of the internationals, because sometimes it's not. But we had a sense it was. And then he won. And when he won, we have to look at the scoring sheet, and they shows, oh, this is first in the first round, first in the second round, and first in the third round. Clearly. So that coffee is going to get the brand points because the Hartmanns have a very strong brand, the tasting points, and of course, being the number 1 point because the number 1 is also getting points. So I think that coffee is going to get to extremely high level of bidding. I just want to see this. It's going to go crazy, and I think it's going to break the record by miles.
Okay, last year's...
I'm very happy for that.
Yes.
Because that family, the Hartmann family, so in the industry of specialty coffee, too many great producers, but those producers are not solely coffee farmers. They have other businesses. Many of them have other businesses, and some of those businesses is even their main income. There are 2 families. There are 2 guys that depend on coffee farming solely. My father and Ratibor Hartmann. So that's one thing that I think, you know what, this guy works hard for this. He works for his family's farm, and he works for his farm that he has with his wife. His kids are into it. His son-in-law is into it. His nephews and nieces are into it. His siblings are into it. So I think that this family is deserving of what they are getting, and they are deserving of a record-breaking price that will just shook the world.
Totally agree. Hartmann family already have a big name in the industry. Ratibor is a flavor architect, I believe so. He creates different profiles, and now the surprise that Undisputed coffee on all the rounds, huge news. And last year, Pocho broke the record in an exponential way because it outperformed huge time the graphic. I have a trend graphic,
Yes.
price and everything, and it broke the record in exponential wave. And if you're saying that this coffee is going to break again, we might expect around 3.6 maybe, or
Maybe.
4K.
You know that
Maybe.
I think that buyers realized that they could sell the Pocho's coffee super expensive, but it sold. And because it sold, they say, oh wow, if it is sold, then I think it's gonna be easier to sell this other one. And then they will be more willing, because they are in similar position than we are. We don't know what the prices are gonna be. They don't know how high they can get. They get higher, and then they think maybe I'm not gonna be able to sell at this price. But then the market buys it. The market buys it. They say, okay, I can go higher the next year, and then they'll go higher next year. And they realize that even going double from the year before still sold. So that's when they say, you know what, I think I can go higher. So I think that's what's going to happen this year.
Great news, and coming from you, who are a totally expert, and you have all the credit to say that. Believe me, I can agree with you that it's going to break another record of price, on bidding price this year. I don't know if you want to talk. Yes.
I want to say this in this platform. I think we should do what we did in 2019, place to watch the auction. The last 2 years for COVID reasons we couldn't, but I think this year needs to go back. So I think we're going to start talking about it soon. The problem is that I am arriving from Australia the day before the auction, but still we're going to talk about it.
Okay, please let's talk about it. And of course, and of the participation from Australia, and then for the best of Panama auction. Just the last topic I want to talk from your side. Some questions. The performance of your coffee in the best of Panama. You got a Geisha Natural for in 94.75 points, which is El Burro. We have a Geisha Natural in 6th position with 94 points, and Geisha Wash number 3 with 94.75 points, which is Elida Geisha Torre. Can you tell us a little bit about those coffees in the auction, and what a bidder can expect from your coffees?
Look, I don't know what to expect on the coffee. We work hard for the brand, so I think the coffees might perform really good, but the attention is going to be on the first places. That's the reality. El Burro, I am very happy that got a higher spot in our own private cuppings before submitting to the Best of Panama. We liked Elida better than El Burro. So it was a little bit surprising that El Burro defeated Elida. And to be honest, when it was announced, the wash was announced, 3rd place, we were super happy with the 3rd place. Because remember, when we were in the discussion, we saw that the top 3 places were very disputed, even though the scoring doesn't show it that way. When I say disputed, I mean like whoever placed it on his first place coffee. So if we go to the records, there are a big group of judges that placed it as a 1st place, and then the other was Santa Maria, and then Automar. So when we say, whoa, we're that one, that's amazing. Of course, we will revert the first place, but knowing that we were one of those three, it was a pretty big deal. So we come to the next round, where the expectations are not necessarily lower, but are more difficult to predict. And because of the profile of the first place, we knew we were not the first place because of the specific profile of that coffee. So they called sixth place, and it's the natural, and we're happy to be in the finals. But we thought that was it. We thought, you know what, we placed third, we placed sixth, that's it, we're amazing, our two coffees were in the finals. And then they called El Burro as the third place. We thought maybe El Burro was maybe a 12th place that was going to go to the auction but not mentioned in the final line. And they called the third place and they say El Burro. Wow, that was a big moment. Big moment. El Burro is a farm that is owned by my father and his brother. It's not a family inherited farm. So his brother lives in the United States and he was here. And I think with some of the videos that were posted about it, you can see him jumping and his face in the camera. It was pretty cool moment when we got that El Burro. And that's what helped us win the Panama Cup at the end by getting the amount of points.
Yes, all the points as a producers. Yes, it's incredible.
A lot of people get confused that why didn't the Hartmanns get it, and maybe if people is gonna hear it here, I'm gonna mention it. The Hartmanns have two projects. Ratibor has his family's project that I have a membership in SCAP, and he has his project with his wife, with Guarumo and Mifinquita. So the two different projects, and then his brother Alan has another project that also performed well. The project separated couldn't achieve the scoring system.
Okay.
Panama Cup. So actually it's confusing in the moment. You don't know which farm belongs to who, which farm was what. There's a lot of commotion in the moment, a lot of nerves coming in the Best of Panama. Then they say, okay, now the Panama Cup. And then I have the three trophies in front of me, 3, 3, and 6. And I know the scores. And then they say, okay, the Panama Cup with 15 points. And I see the trophies and say, fuck, we are 15 points. And then they call our names and poof, that was really, really cool.
Awesome.
Panama Cup, we won it 3 times. No other farm has more than 2. Esmeralda and Cotoba has 2, and Pocho has 1, and a few others has 1, and we have 3. So for us, it's a pretty big deal. It means consistency. It means that we can achieve high points on all the coffees, which is what we're trying to do as producers.
Awesome, and great news for your state, Lamastus Family States, which are one of the top and now legendary states in the world, not only in Panama, because when we are talking about specialty coffee, Panama, we have to accept it, is the mecca of the specialty coffee right now, and all the eyes are focused on Panama when it comes to specialty coffee. If price is a factor, we have the most priced coffee right now. So that's the way I always tell to people, because people get very yes, yeah, and it's in a time of like, okay, I'm from Costa Rica, we have the best coffee, okay, but if price is a driver, then we have more prices over the Costa Rican coffee. And if points are a driver, scores, we also have better scores in points. So yeah. That's the way to when I refer to people from other countries, because it's a very difficult thing to discuss, because people it's like we're talking about soccer with some other people, or your favorite NFL team. People get very very hard, and they fight for the team.
All these countries beat us in other stuff, but not in coffee.
Yes. So, Wilford, it's been a pleasure for me having this talk with you. I know you are very busy, and we already talked about your performance in in the Brewers Cup, in the next following Brewers Cup, we talk about Sisu, your coffee shop, which is a coffee studio or a fourth wave coffee studio that we have here in Panama. We already have talked about the private auction. We have a nice presentation year by year. Now I'm expecting what are you going to do in the next year to perform the packaging of this year's. And we have talked about Best of Panama of this year and your predictions about the price. And now telling us that this year we are going to have a big price record for the, I don't know if the Hartmanns or the Auromar. There's always a fight with
the Hartmanns.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if you have anything else to say before we say goodbye. Any comment? Any comment related to this talk?
I thank you for this. It's good to talk about coffee. It's good to be proud of what the industry is bringing, and people like you is what influences other people into learning more about it. And you do really good material for specifically when things like the auction happens, where people can read and learn a little bit more about it in a more condensed data, which I think is pretty cool, and it helps us share information in an easier way. So thank you for doing this, influencing people about the Panamanian coffee. And remember, everything we make in coffee will go back to the community in some way, somehow. So I'm pretty sure that if the Hartmanns break a record that level, that's going to impact Los Pozos, Tizingal, Santa Clara, and those areas where they are working pretty hard, pretty big.
Great. And that's all. Thanks for your comments and for your appreciation. Believe me, I just want to wish you the best of the lucks in Australia in the Brewers Cup. And it's going to be a difficult task, but you're already prepared for that. And since you are being practicing more in the sensorial side of copings instead of the performance of the open service, I believe you're going to have a better place on this competition, which is the World Cup, which is of soccer. Or we can do the equiparation. It's like you're going to the Olympics in any even sport, which is brewing coffee. So we have a great coffee for that, and we have a great participant. So the best of the lucks to you, Wilford, and not only for you, also the best of the lucks for the private action for the family, and the best of the lucks in the Best of Panama for your coffees and the Lamastus family coffees. I would like to extend this to all your family. I know that your father was here during a moment, and Simi wasn't here during a moment. It's an effort that everybody is doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Wilford.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.